Welcome to the regularly scheduled Mayor and Council meeting for the Town of Berlin. It is Monday, September 9th, 2024. Please join us in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on our agenda is the motion to approve. A motion by Councilmember Wirtz, second by Councilmember Nur. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Let the record reflect that the consent agenda passes unanimously with all council members present. Up next is agenda item 2, items for approval. First item, during these items, we do accept public comment before actions taken by the council. First up is agenda item 2A, motion 2024-51, a moratorium on certain matters of the Planning Commission, and our town administrator, Mary Boland, and town attorney, David Gaskell, are going to appoint.
This is an extension of the moratorium that has been in place. There's actually a schedule of the updates to the moratorium listed within the moratorium, just as a little more background.
Thank you. Any discussion by the council?
Well, just to reiterate, I think the reason why we're here with the moratorium is that we currently still do not have a planning director. Just want to restate that it should be soon, but that's why one of the main reasons why we have a moratorium and why we're asking for this extension.
And these items only include rezoning, site plan review, and
Site plan
annexation.
approval. Site plan approval.
And annexation.
So, just a question. So this is into November 15th, so it would stand to reason that it's going to come back, perhaps, and then ask for a decision to December 15th.
Yes.
Historically speaking, is there a lot of movement in December with planning and applications and whatnot?
I honestly couldn't answer that. I just don't know.
To follow up on Councilman Green's comments, yes, we don't have a planning director, but we are working extremely hard to get one in place.
We're very interested. Anybody that's, I feel like a match, right? Like, we're very interested in you if you are a planning director or have the qualifications to be a planning director. Thank you. Please. Any other council comments? As Councilmember Nichols said, not desperate but interested.
Yes.
All right, we'll open it up to public comment regarding the moratorium. Seeing none, we'll take action by the council.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Nur, a second by Councilmember Farrell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that motion 2024-51 passes unanimously. Up next is agenda item 2B, motion 2024-52. And these are this is an appointment to the Ethics Commission. In the packet, page number 17, you'll see a letter from the mayor's office recommending David Ranigan, thank you, as a new appointment to the Ethics Commission. This is a 3-year term. Mr. Ranigan has experience working with hospital ethics boards and commissions in the past and is eager to volunteer in Berlin. All of you should have also received copies of the applicant's application and resume, and it was a unanimous recommendation from the panel.
So just for clarity's sake,
Yes.
Would this applicant, Mr. Ranigan, be replacing someone that's leaving, or is he filling a vacancy?
So currently the ethics, and Mary, David, fill in where you see fit, but currently ethics has 3 members.
By code.
One member, thank you, yes, by code. One member chose to not want to continue. We are filling that role. In subsequent meetings, you will see us request that we'd like to take that group to 5, because right now what we're struggling with is the ability to get a quorum sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And this group is integral in our ability to process elections. So Mary, maybe you can talk a tad bit about how vital this role is?
Well, to the point of elections, the portion of the election process that this group oversees is the review of the financial disclosure forms. Those are filed by incumbents by April 30th of each year and by new candidates when they file for office. The election board
Right.
reviews things for completeness and submission, but the ethics board reviews the financial disclosures.
Thank you.
I just want to say I was very impressed with Mr. Rannigan's resume. I think we should interview him for planning director.
Thanks, Jay.
Oh my goodness.
Any other comments or questions? It's only 7:10, 7:05. All right, we'll open it up to any comments from the public. All right, seeing none, we'll take council approval.
Motion to approve the appointment to the Ethics Commission from the mayor.
A motion by Councilmember Orris,
Second.
second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Let the record reflect the votes unanimous. Sarah, you'll follow up.
He'll be here at the next meeting. to
Thank you so
respond.
much.
So I have a quick question about that process.
Yes, go ahead.
Is it, I understand the process, but is it possible to add because I saw in this gentleman's application, is it possible to add a second, like there's a drop-down menu of what you're interested in, what you're applying for. Is there an opportunity to add a second drop-down for, let's say I don't know, let's say I'm an architect, but I also happen to love planting flowers. So could I put like planning commission and horticultural advisory committee as interests?
Go ahead, Sarah.
We can change that on the website, but right now, as you saw in his application, you can write in the box what you're interested in. So you could put down horticultural first or planning first, and then also say, my other interests are X, Y, or Z, and I'd like to be considered for those, which is what people currently do.
And the challenge is that we don't retain them for a long period of time. We'll retain that.
How long do we keep them?
Typically, what, a couple months? I mean, there's no standard.
Right now,
So I would say a couple months, if we don't have a lot of vacancies.
Yeah, I would think
But
you
then
might
if,
make a pool.
well, yes and no, it gets a little difficult to track sometimes. But what we have done is if somebody is interested and we have this window, we do reach out to folks and we say, hey, look, you might have applied for this, are you interested in that? Or, hey, you expressed interest.
Okay,
But I mean, we can,
that's fine.
I have no
I'm sure I
objection
can
to
add
adding
a
a,
second button.
you could make it probably
If you think
a,
it's-
like a button that they can click to like kind of whatever they're interested in.
Thank you.
Usually,
Yeah, thank you.
based on the website.
But I would not want one person,
To hit them all.
yes.
They do. Sometimes right now they'll put them in the comment box.
Mm-hmm.
And we're okay with it.
You could limit it to choice, pick two or something. You could,
But one person serving on 3 different.
Oh, we limit that.
Yes.
Only in certain circumstances, there are a few that we have some folks serving in 2 capacities. And that's either been historical precedent that we've not adjusted course on, or it's another instance was we have one person wanting to fill a role that didn't currently have a vacancy, but they wanted to volunteer. And then now they're in that role and they'd like to drop off of the one that they were second on.
Yes.
So,
I think trying to bring as many people as possible is in that best interest.
we also, just while we're on the topic, we don't, if we get a large applicant pool, we also look at like the district representations to try and spread that out as well. We also make it, and we get several applications of folks that want to serve that are outside of Berlin. Only a few instances does our code reference that they have to be in Berlin, but as a general practice, we've not recommended anybody that doesn't live in Berlin for a board commission.
some of the boards and commissions do indicate that X number must be residents.
Make sure you say
Right,
that.
right. That so many must be residents, and that's to allow those particular boards. I'm going to say this, I may be incorrect. I think the Parks Commission, for instance. There may be someone out there with a level of expertise that they want to bring in who doesn't necessarily live in town. So it does offer that opportunity. But that doesn't apply to every board.
And some
Most of them require residents.
Some of them take it as far as you need to have 2 in like the historic district. Some that are
Right.
historic district residents and some that are not.
Mhm.
I think that just, it's interesting to see the makeup.
My concern is just having one person serving on several different commissions.
Right.
And the Ethics Commission is one in particular, I would say that person should definitely not serve on any others, just, for the potential for conflict of interest.
All right, let's move on to presentations. Agenda item number 3. This is a presentation on projected electricity rate increases. Tim, running point.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk tonight about the release from the Maryland Office of People's Counsel, which is basically the Public Service Commission. It was a release that went out on August 14th, and it's about Maryland customers face years of higher electricity bills from regional market problems. It's just a report that basically is saying over the next 4 years, actually starting at the end of 25 up to 2030, that we're looking at some rate increases. And what it's due to, first of all, I'm going to explain what PJM does. I'm sure most of you have heard of them, but the public probably doesn't realize who PJM is. PJM is the Independent System Operator Regional Transmission Organization. It's called the RTO. They run the electric transmission system for 13 states, including the District of Columbia. PJM stands for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland, the 3 states that originally formed the system. PJM is responsible for basically making sure that the power is there through the transmission lines to serve 13 states. Those 13 states include Delaware, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia. So PJM basically coordinates the movement of electricity from generators to local utilities. Local utilities then distribute the power to the customers. PJM Interconnection also runs a wholesale market where it buys electricity on behalf of the utilities. In the news release that went out from the Public Service Commission, they were basically, it sounds to me like they were trying to put the blame on PJM for the high rate increases that are coming. But part of the reason is the mandated closure of coal-fired plants. You have several, like 50% of the coal-fired plants have already shut down, and the rest of them are supposed to be shut down by 2040. Well, to build, they want solar and wind to replace that capacity that produces power. Well, those solar and wind projects can't be built fast enough to keep up with it. So you're having to pay higher capacity charges to guarantee that their power is going to flow to each state, each municipality, each power provider. For example, we had a meeting with AMP, American Municipal Power, that actually occurred on August 7th. And we talked about our purchase power contract and what we are looking at in the future. For example, not here so much, but like in Virginia, Northern Virginia, there's big data centers being built, but those data centers are actually the load of some small cities, like the size of Berlin. They are actually, they are predicting, like right now, for example, it's 4.2% of total load in 2024 to be 8.1% in 2030. So it's going to double the amount by 2030, which in turn that puts a burden on the power that's distributed to all the states. So basically what's going on right now is that you have the coal-fired plants shutting down, the solar and wind plants can't be built fast enough to keep up with it. So PJM is charging higher capacity charges basically to provide power until that works itself out. And I look at one prime example is Ocean City, for example, the wind farm. How many years has that been going on now? At least, what, 8 years? That I can think of, 8 or 10. That's still in the works. And most of those big wind farms, they're either in the permitting process or they're in the courts trying to be worked out because some of them don't want them, some do. So we're kind of stuck with it. One good thing is we have peak shaving at our generation plant, which offsets those capacity charges. And this, for this past year, they're estimating that our summer peaking capacity and transmission savings from summer peaking are going to save, or estimated to have saved $680,000 to the ratepayers. So without the peak generation plant, we would have to be paying that capacity charges. That's why we're working to try to get the 2 natural gas engines installed at the plant, which will pretty much double our capacity as far as what we can generate. So you would be looking, I don't know, 1.2 million in savings, somewhere in there, which would also help us to relieve the capacity issue.
What can we do to help? Or is it kind of let's sit back and see how the market plays out?
Right now, we basically are going to sit back and see what the market does. Our contracts run through the end of 2025. Right now, we're actually looking at getting involved in it's a wind turbine, it's a wind farm, basically, by American Municipal Power, which will help offset some of our rec requirements that we have to pay. So that'll help somewhat, and then, we have to also just sit back and see what the market does.
Just to clarify a little bit about what Tim just said about the town working with or participating with a wind farm. This is not a wind farm that is going to be located in Berlin.
No.
It's a purchase it's us purchasing those renewable energy credits.
Yeah, through AMP.
Thank you for
Let me give you an example. What is the cost of installed capacity? For the period from June 25th to May 26th, PJM pays generators, that's who produces the power into the grid, $14.7 billion annually. That's how much we're talking about, which will be collected from all customers in the PJM region. Beginning in June of 2025, capacity costs will be an additional burden of approximately 2.4 cent kWh to the average residential customer, which in turn is going to add about $250 annually. That's what they're predicting.
So where are we with increasing our ability to peak shave?
What's going on is we're working with Chesapeake Utilities, which is the gas company, and this has been going on for some time with Booth Associates has been involved in it. We're trying to nail down basically what our purchase power agreement rate will be for natural gas, which they haven't provided that yet. And we're also working with another company to look at installing the 2 new generators, which will be a turnkey deal where they do it all up front. And then, but we can't move on that until we see what our gas contract's going to be with Chesapeake Utilities. So we're kind of in a waiting game right at this minute.
Tim, isn't that true that even if we were able to keep up with capacity by building more wind turbines,
Yes.
that because of the cost of the subsidies the government provides and the cost of maintenance that's required, that our rates would go up anyway?
Yes, wind and solar, you're going to pay more for wind and solar produced power than you are for coal-fired power.
Yeah.
Yes. You're looking at 20-30%.
So either way.
Either way.
It takes more for them to produce the same amount of power than coal-fired.
Right,
Do
plus.
you recall I remember us looking at the kilowatt hour
Yes.
cost increase for what the wind power cost would be versus what we're currently paying.
Right.
For some reason, 8 and 11 stood out in mind.
That's right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So when Natalie mentions the electric rate study that she did in the budget the past year and a half, is that factoring this information in or not? Probably not. No. Okay.
That's more about just determining if the rates that we're charging our customers are covered.
Oh, that's internal. Oh, yeah.
Or,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Well, plus
Two different things.
Yeah.
Well, the only part that would really like piggyback is maybe the capital side, because that is typically in the rate study.
It
We
should
project
be
out our
looked at for the
capital.
capital side, but today what we're discussing is basically a prediction for the future, what's gonna happen. And because we're not fully generating the electricity in-house, we're dependent on purchases. And unfortunately, we're dictated what's happening
Right.
on the bigger side. So for right now, till 2025, we're relatively safe because we purchase racks in advance. But if that will proceed full speed, we will see the impact. Everybody will see the impact.
Yeah, it's not just us, it's all 13
It's
states.
the entire world will see.
So
we
we need
say
to back
that-
off.
Hold on one second, if you don't mind. We say the 13 states, but really what we mean here locally is Choptank, DP&L, Berlin are all going to be paying these increased rates. So it's not just the town of Berlin.
That is
Eugene, I
correct.
mean,
Yeah, so it's, I mean, it's a broad question, I'm not really expecting a 100% answer right now, but to piggyback on Vice President Burrell's comment, we're like in a holding pattern with the gas generators.
Correct.
But once we get that information, are we in a position to move forward with it, or at least tippy toe in?
Yes, at that
Yes.
point, I mean, right now, it's kind of, we're just waiting on
waiting on
utilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit of that depends. We've got to look at how we're going to repay that.
Yeah.
Because it is going to be a substantial capital investment. There are some options that
That is,
allow us to be able to approach that. Other options require us to go to the Public Service Commission. So really, once we get the information, then we've got to develop a plan.
We have to figure out how much we're looking for or we'll need.
You
Many
know,
things lead to the next.
Yeah.
you know, Tim, I have sat in several presentations concerning electric and rates and generation, but I just want to thank you for your ability to make the layman understand how this stuff works. You really do a good
I
job.
tried to.
You really do a good job.
Thank you.
Because I understood totally what you were talking about.
Well, Jay was ready to appoint our ethics person. As a director of planning, maybe you could be a assistant to electricity.
You really do a good job, Tim.
One thing I would like to mention, part of AMP's report is EVs, charging stations. They are going to increase the load by 145% over the PJM region. And we're already seeing that in Berlin. We have one customer that we're dealing with right now that has several charging stations. And we're already seeing it impact our equipment. So it's something that we have to keep an eye on. Because we see it a lot in the field that these EV charging stations are at homes that we didn't even know about. They're just there. And then I just found out from Carolyn, the county just passed a ordinance to allow 100 amp service to be installed without a permit. Which
To clarify that a little bit, because I looked at that language a little more carefully. It's the difference between installing less than 100 amps without a permit in a location that has existing service versus just installing it even in a new location.
Correct.
So that's, yeah.
What it means is, say at your house, for example, you want to install I don't know, we'll just say a 60 amp EV charging station. Before, you had to get a licensed electrician and get a permit to do that. Now you don't. So they can, I guess this helps the homeowner because they don't have to pull a permit to do it, and they can do the work themselves. But it is going to impact our utility eventually.
So Tim, since you brought it up, how are those EV stations doing over by the mural?
It depends on the time of the year. During the summer, they do pretty good because we have more people in town. Then it dies down in the winter. I mean, it's not used 100% of the time.
A family member used it he was here for 6 days, and it's free.
What's that now?
It's free, correct?
No, it's not free now.
Hopefully they
So
paid, Steve.
They did not. Good for him, I guess, but I don't, I don't know who paid, but they didn't have to put a card in or anything.
No, the State of Maryland Public Service Commission, if you're a municipality or a utility provider, you cannot charge over 18 cents per kWh. So it limits to what
Well, it's very convenient.
we can make from it.
And we're not leading the charge on these,
Yeah.
well, leading the charge on these.
Yeah.
We have one in town.
Yeah.
So I think,
Shocking.
What do you think that's gonna do to a homeowner's insurance if they are allowed to
I don't know.
have someone that's not licensed to do it?
I don't know. I was very surprised when I heard about it yesterday.
Just a
Jack's
little more-
thinking about going into business again.
A little more clarification.
Yeah, jack of all trades, right?
The reason this comes down to the county is because the county does the oversight on electric
Yep.
permits. It's not a town permit.
Well, thank
Thank
you,
you,
Tim.
Tim.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes,
How safe is
not normally,
that?
but
If they can get their own people to do it, how safe is that?
That's
That's
question.
It's a good question.
we don't set that regulation.
There's such thing as a jack leg.
A what?
Yeah,
Jack legs.
All right, up next, we'll go to the town administrator and departmental reports.
I think I announced this last time, but I'll say it again. We received notification that we will, you announced it, I believe, that we will be getting the funding for the Henry Park playground.
The
Starting that.
Board of Public Works approved it, so.
So
I hope to
excited.
have that back or in front of you in some capacity, probably at the next meeting. The only other thing that I really had was a reminder that there will be a stormwater open house this Thursday, September 12th, from 4 to 6 p.m. in this room, open to the public. And then
Thursday?
that's it. It's Thursday, correct.
46.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the structure of that's going to be, well, I'll try my best. An overview of the town's stormwater utility, very, very high-level overview.
Yeah.
And then we'll also have the opportunity for DNR is going to be on site. Thank you, Councilmember Horst, for helping get this started as well. They'll talk a little bit about some private option grants for like homeowners associations and things like that. Then we'll break out, we'll have a couple folks set up in the room and you can go around and talk to different entities, whether that's the town, whether that's EA, who we can contract out our stormwater with, DNR, Maryland Coastal Bays. Anybody else I'm missing? I think that's everybody, right? So, should be a good time. All right, any questions for Mary or departmentals regarding the reports that are in the packet? Okay, we'll move on to comments from the public. Anybody that wishes to address the mayor and council can come forward. Ms. Gladys, you want to talk about your dog park?
But I'd like to know what's going on with it.
I always think dog parks when I see Ms. Gladys.
So
Always.
what's going on with it? I'd like to know.
Well, actually, Jimmy and Jamie are taking a field trip to Ocean City to take a look at their dog park.
Oh, yes.
And also
I know
some
that.
playground equipment, because we're getting ready to do that over at at Dr. William Henry Park. So we are exploring that.
Good. Thank you.
Jimmy's taking a field trip.
Too far.
All right, let's move on to comments from the council. Do you want to start or do you want to end?
No, I have, where are we with getting the gas company?
Well, we're trying all angles. Tim, I think, has tried, we've tried.
Jamie has tried. I don't know.
Jamie has,
Yeah.
right? Jimmy, have you tried as well? I didn't think so.
Jamie
Oh,
has
Jamie.
contacts.
So far, I think, has your, gentleman responded back to?
I'm trying, what do we?
Chesapeake Utilities. Remember, we're trying to get them in?
Yes, he responded and sent it to their safety training department,
Okay.
and I'm waiting on them to get back in touch.
Tim's gotten further than anybody,
Yeah.
so.
I think Jamie got a very similar response.
Yeah, the very next day I got in touch with my contact with Chesapeake, and then they sent me an email and said they would send it to their safety department.
Our friend's not gotten back to us yet, has he?
No.
He was very responsive when he wanted his letter, but he's not been responsive after.
They were-
Anything else?
Just one more thing. The EDUs associated with the Gillis proposal, what is the value of those 13? You know, asking this question, 15.
And you
I'm
asked.
asking this question because I would like for this number to be part of the public record.
Let me see if I have that in notes I have with me.
So it's important to know that it's water versus sewer, right?
It's
These are
sewer, not water.
These are sewer, not water.
Correct.
And I just went through this project, you know, I think the water was around between 4,000 and 5,000. I thought sewer, if I correct me, but that was 13,000.
That's about right. In
You
total,
round-
it's
you round into the
16,000
next-
something.
Yes, it's 12,000 and change for sewer, and then
12,000
44.25, I think, for water, I don't have
So it's
the
12,000 times 15.
Right.
For the sewer, yes.
So what's the number? 12,000 times 15?
I thought you had the calculator.
I'm trying to stop
Oh.
my beeper.
Who wants to do it?
180,000
180,000,
plus, it's gonna be not even 180,
around 180,000.
around.
That is the value of the 15 EDUs that's being transferred.
15 sewer.
15 sewer EDUs that's being transferred into Gillis.
Well, they're staying with the property.
Yes, yes.
We've transferred the remaining amount to parcel 410, I
Yes.
think.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Nur?
I have a question for Mr. Charles. Some neighbors are asking, when are we going to have the street sign auction? And apparently there's going to be a bidding war.
We need a 501c3. So if we can get a 501c3 that will help us with the auction, that's all we need.
So we could ask Weehart.
We've asked some, but if Weehart's willing to do it, we'll take you up on it.
Let me check with Tony then, yeah.
If you can help us, that'd be awesome. All the money goes to the community center.
We can give you a list of signs.
I've asked, they said no.
We are very close to completing all the signs. We purchased the last remaining signs back in August. And right now, it'd be about another month to 6 to 8 weeks. Because just, we have kind of other priorities than to get these signs, you know. Kind of signs are more bad weather, rainy days. But it is in the process to get them done. So, yes, I would say in the next 8 weeks, we should have all the signs, all the new signs hanging.
Don't we have an MOU with Weehart, Berlin, that would allow us to partner with them?
I don't,
Or did we- was
have
ours
to
more
look at the terms,
specific?
but I think it was more direct to the state part.
Well, yes, Mary Hedleski, if you can help us with that, we would love it.
I'll find it right now.
Thank you.
So Jimmy Charles, will there be a, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Will there be a running list of the amount, the names, the signs you have and the number associated with? Because you know, like on certain streets, there'll be several that say that specific street name.
Like
Correct.
3 William Street. or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
We have them kind of stockpiled, and then we were waiting to kind of complete all the signs. But they're all in the pile upstairs at Public Works.
Does anybody have a connection, you don't have to, if you do, we can take it offline, but with like one of these auction houses? Yes, Jess?
Actually.
Well, if you
I
want to
will
help us
talk
connect
to you
to
about
that.
that after.
Okay.
People want it.
We can do it.
You can do it? Perfect. So the money will flow through Weehart and it would go directly to the community center.
Thank you, sweetheart. It was
Thank you guys so much.
Very appreciate that legwork.
And
Thank
then
you.
Jack, if we can follow
They're
up.
outdated.
Good. I like it.
That's it.
And Councilmember Nichols.
Yes, I had a question. This is I guess it's an Ivy question. I know that Mr. Burrell had mentioned it before. We talked about this off and on a little bit, sprinkled it over the years that I've been in this position. The possibility of having the farmer's market, I'm not trying to relocate what we have, but having something of its kind on Flower Street in the vacant space. It was brought up to me again this Sunday when I was there by Cross Farms, because they deliver food to the local elementary, or the local schools, all of them, and then also to the seniors and whatnot. And their worry and concern was with a lot of their seniors who have the vouchers, they're homebound or they're not mobile or can't get far. And a good portion of their senior population are in senior housing, many of them right near Isaiah Fassett, Mallard Ridge, that area. So I don't know, I know we're wrapping up the season this year, but if it's something that we could look into for next year possibly, or even if we could get them over there mobily for now, I don't even know what we could do, but to help them so that these folks could get it.
Sure, well, a solution to that, which we offer this year, is what's called a CSA. So folks, and Cross Farms, I believe, is the only farmer at the farmer's market that accepts additional payment. But all of the farmers offer CSA, which means that people can sign up for it and they get a box delivered to them every week. And so I can arrange for something like that, and we can work with the community that way. If that works.
They had mentioned it. I can't remember. I always just call them Cross Farms, but I can't remember the husband and wife's name.
Sean and Carol.
Yeah, Sean's he's always talking me into buying the darn crinkle cookies from next door from
Right.
the Vecchios. And this week I fell for it and bought both boxes of darn cookies, triple chocolates and the crinkles, which are the same cookie just with frosting on the top. But anyway, when we were talking about that, just being able to meet that need for that that age group, that population would be phenomenal.
How about if I talk with you offline and I can get the packages together and maybe get them to you so you can distribute them to those?
Or even, because I don't, and maybe this is an offline conversation, I don't know who the new housing director is at Isaiah Fassett. Yeah, they've changed.
I'll check with Carolyn on that.
Yeah.
Carolyn
that way
will
we
know.
can, you know what I mean? So we can at least help facilitate that.
And then I can make up some posters about, here's where you sign up for CSA, and we can get them to the churches. They could put them on their bulletin boards. How does that sound?
I love it. And even the senior center right here. Please and thank you.
We're also
that's easy.
We're also trying to expand the ability to take food stamps and WIC with
SNAPs. Is that what it's referred to?
I think there's a new push by DSS to try and do that.
Right. So it's because we're a town-run farmers market, where some of them are run by 501c3. It's a little different. So when we had our farmers market meeting at the beginning of the season, I asked who would be interested in being able to accept those types of payments, and it was Cross Farms are the only ones who wanted to.
I mean, and I love their hearts. They stuff my pocket with coloring books for my students as well, but providing not just for the seniors, but for the children in schools, they want to know the big thing.
Yeah, I agree. I even went to a training in Annapolis to learn all about the program, and that's when I found out that as a local government, it's
Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Anything else?
There was something, what am I bringing? Oh, so the community block party, I mean, my grandson had a blast going from bounce house to bounce house. He thought that was great, and the teens loved being in town just to eat, so.
Yeah, that was it was a chamber event, and with a variety of partners, and it was one of those things where there's always been talk about doing something just for kids, and then there's always been talk about starting a chili pepper festival that Toby Gilbert really wants to do. So it was a litmus test to see how it would work, and the two combined, it worked out really well. So we have a chamber meeting tomorrow night to talk about the 2025 event. So hopefully we have some more things that I can report on. And then next Monday, the next council meeting Monday, we are all presenting each of our events. So I'll be presenting the town events and the Main Street District events, arts entertainment events. The chamber will be presenting their events. The museum will be presenting their events, and Teresa will be presenting the Runaway Bride event again. But historically, I always present all the events, and sometimes you have questions, and I think it makes more sense, so then you know who's running which event, and the public knows who's running which event also, and then they can answer your questions.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Thank you. Jack?
Yes, just real quick, kudos to the partners and the facilitators of the event on Saturday. I thought it was, when I was up there, I thought it went really well. Just piggybacking on Mary's comment about the stormwater event on Thursday. Hopefully, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good informative time, so come on down. And my final just question, following back on something I asked about a month or so ago, is it possible to get, I think, Jimmy, you were going to look into it with Chief, is it possible to get speed limits on Ann, signs on Ann, to kind of complete that loop?
We can circle back and...
Okay.
We were in answer, put signs on all the streets.
Okay.
So that's not a problem. He just has to get them and put them up.
Oh.
All right.
Can we, great.
25?
What's the residential?
30.
Whoa.
30. Is it
30?
Is it really? I thought it was 25.
30 if you don't have signs up.
But if we put signs up.
Because I think that's just 25.
So you'd have to go ahead and...
Oh, if we put signs up, it's going to be 25.
Yeah.
But Ann does not have signs at all. Ann Court doesn't have signs.
Ann doesn't.
Ann doesn't have signs going.
So Ann Court don't have signs. So that whole section does.
Man, you finished
You go
street
up
sign.
to 25
Speed limit
on
station.
Well, Esham, like I call the loop, Esham has one.
It has a sign going
It
in.
has a 25 going in, but nothing on the other side.
Really? It's 30 miles an hour? I thought all town speed limits, unless they were on like these state roads that have them published,
Well, look,
were all
look at it.
25.
Well, then it's all 25, all 30, but I think it's 30.
Well, it's like 25.
Ooh, 30 is
Slow down in our town. Let's just put it that
I'll
way.
double check.
Okay, thank you, Chief, and giving
But definitely going in, because there's only 2 ways to go in.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No, that was all, thank you.
Councilmember Green?
Sure, I actually follow up with Chief here on the speed cameras. I was curious, I know when we had the one on Flower, they had that huge increase. You know, we don't have to cite any numbers, but is it are you seeing some increases or violations on Seahawk and the new one on?
Definitely.
Yeah. Since school started particularly, I'm assuming?
Sure. Once they got up, we had more, during school time itself, you don't have as much speed.
Right.
Of course. The dump are our biggest, when I went to the dump, they said, everybody who's going to the dump gets hit. So they've learned a lesson. So a lot of them actually been, going to the dump, not even all the way down Flower Street.
Exactly.
There you go, good spot.
But the result of those speed cameras is absolutely tremendous because it has slowed folks down. It has slowed folks down.
That's the goal.
tremendously.
It's not
You
even
can just stand on
about.
the street and visually watch and you
Yeah.
Yep. I'm glad we did it.
And then you'll see somebody come by and then you'll think, well, that was a ticket. But other than that, it's slowed folks down. So they're working.
Thank you.
Okay, then I have another thing. So, I think as a council person, we get approached quite often in our representative forum, and there's been an issue that's just been pretty much for the last year that we just have not been able to address properly. And I have 5 emails here from citizens, and I get approached all the time, particularly on Baker Street. So I'm just looking to try to find some sort of solution here. We had an email that was rolling through. I just want to get a little background. Tracks and Yaks is located on Baker Street, and it has impacted residents negatively. One of the main complaints was the porta potty that was on the side by the railroad track. So that was there for a year against town code. And then when we learned that it was not permissible, we were told it would be removed, and it was not for a couple of weeks. And then I came home last Friday and said, oh man, it's great, it's moved finally. Okay, that's good. And then I noticed a white tent on the other side, closer to the beer company. And I said, oh, interesting, a white tent. Then later that evening, I was driving by and saw that the porta potty was hidden inside the white tent. And it's intolerable to me. Saturday, coming back from the great event uptown, and the white tent was blown over across the railroad track, showing the porta potty. So the porta potty was moved away from a residence, closer to a business that has been very impacted by this as well. So my request is for the porta potty to be removed and for the business owner to be told that it's against the code. It cannot be on that property according to the code. So that's one. I'm hoping that we can move forward with that being done. When notified of the code, the business owner said that he intended to stay even without a porta potty, which I find unacceptable as well. They would not provide restrooms for their customers or workers, and the closest public restrooms is Town Hall. So my second request is for my colleagues up here, if we would please consider coming to a consensus to either ask the business to relocate somewhere else or talk to the railroad company and ask them to please find a home for this business that does not negatively impact our citizens. Constantly hearing about things such as this when it's mirrored against concerns about cost of living, and we want to live in the town of Berlin, but we don't want to be negatively impacted. And I feel like this is one that's negatively impacting my neighborhood. We compound this negative impact with what's going to happen when the brewery opens. We're going to have a really logistical nightmare there, and it's very bothersome to me that I can't keep telling people it's the railroad company's property, we can't do anything about it. I just find that unacceptable for the town of Berlin for us not to address a comment. I know at least a few of us up here have gotten emails about this. And last Friday, when I saw that tent hiding the porta potty is not allowed by code, the business owner was informed it was not allowed by code. And then when I came home Saturday and saw the tent blown off the track and the porta potty there, I already heard from Brew Company that it smells today. It's just not fair. And I hope that we can find a middle ground here. The Action Tracks has a good business. They do. It's a come here business, though. It's not something that they're walking upon and booking on site. They're booking online. We can find a better place for this business. And I would hope that we can work together to try to address this, because I'm really frustrated, and I'm speaking for my constituents that are asking the town to help.
Yeah, I hear you. My thought, and I didn't cut anybody off if I was, when you said this, and the laughter was not,
Yeah, no.
you caught us with this thing on tent, and hiding inside the tent is the porta potty.
Yeah.
They could have, at that point, used, labeled it as luxury restaurants, hidden from the rain.
Right.
But, exactly. But what my thought is, why not see if Yaks and Tracks can't partner with Berlin Fire and run itself out of the old library, because that right there is still on their track. There's restrooms in there. They can, you know what I'm saying? They can also, if they did a fee, and I can't speak for, maybe I shouldn't speak like that, but it's a possibility for them to look into leasing, renting. They can operate out of that facility, pay a rent to Berlin Fire. Restrooms are there, you know what I mean? And then they could also sell into the whole idea, the nostalgia around that building having been one of the major railroad hubs for, during its time up and down the East Coast.
Yeah, and anybody else, please, I understand that the fire company at one point was approached and the fee was, I don't know.
Steve, two other potential locations, of course, would be Heron Park, an obvious one. And I had mentioned earlier to you about the where the grain silos are. That
Right.
Private property, maybe they can make a deal for parking, because there's plenty of room there to park and operate on.
Right.
But I mean, those porta potties, it just, it,
Yeah.
I think that's, that was part of the Purdue property, right?
Right.
so Carmela's,
I think so, I believe she was.
but I mean.
Can you play matchmaker, Ivy, maybe?
I have been the Yenta, the matchmaker, for Tracks and Yaks when they first wanted to come here. So there were several locations that we looked at. And I can't remember his name, the gentleman who owned the Southern States property before Berlin Beer Company. So, right, so they had made a deal with Tracks and Yaks to come here, so that they had already squared that away, and then when they came down to meet with them, they didn't know that they had sold the property and the business. So we worked with the Berlin Fire Company, with Dave Fitzgerald, for them to use that property, and negotiations broke down with that situation. Heron Park, it was going through the negotiations between the Gillises and the demo grant, so that's a viable option. I've talked with Tracks and Yaks about new locations, and they are interested. They are interested in hearing about new locations, but they've also said that that they're also fine staying where they are. But I think that if someone offered them another location along the tracks, I even worked with Carolyn Duffy last week about the property where Patrick Henry's studio is and Velda's Creative Designs is. That area right there might work out. And I even tried to tell him to rent space in your old building, Steve, because I think that would work out well. He also let me know that he was going to move the porta pot further down the track to allow for a restroom break. So I think that it would be out of town limits, and he would have a porta pot set up somewhere in the field, in the railroad easement, that people could use the restroom on a break. But I've been in touch with Catherine Banks, and she said that she has a lease agreement with the Tracks and Yaks, and
Catherine Banks is from the railroad. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Catherine Banks is the president of the Delaware Maryland Railroad.
Can we maybe try to restart the conversation with the fire company? Maybe we loop in Carmelo with the Purdue property. Thinking Heron Park might be off limits right this moment.
That's what I thought.
And then,
yeah, what's in that little building, where the Purdue property is, on the...
where they used to weigh the grain?
Yeah, what's in that spot?
I don't know.
White House.
My head was,
White House.
Yeah, but Councilmember Nichols asked what's there now.
But they also
None of those options really address the
I
restaurant.
know, I was just saying, like,
Well,
I think there was a bathroom in there.
well, that's what I was
Right.
thinking.
That's why if they
where
do
I was
the
going
restaurant-
with that.
What code is being
They still
violated?
need a restroom, so the porta pot will then be moved over there, and I don't think that.
Well, no, I was thinking that in that way house, that there may actually be a restroom.
There was a
in
restroom in there. There used to be.
There it is.
So that's what I was thinking in regards to that, like if they were to move to that space, if the restroom is functioning, then that could eliminate porta potties completely.
So I can make the connection between Tracks and Yaks and Carmelo.
And the fire company.
And I will reintroduce that with the fire company. And I will make all of those options available to Adam at Tracks and Yaks, as I've done since day one, a variety of locations. In the beginning, that location seemed to work out well with Berlin Beer Company. They were excited that they were there. But obviously the construction took a little bit longer. They were going to work together on some tour excursions, and I'm not quite sure what happened with that. But I'll do the best that I can to make the connections between the interested parties and see if that works. Other than that, I'm not quite sure. I mean, that's...
What are we doing with the code violation?
Well, the porta potty, we've had conversations with them, but the porta potty needs to go.
Right, and I talked with Mary about that on Friday.
They had assured us verbally that they would take care of it.
But
That
that's
hasn't
not gonna
happened.
work.
So the
It's
next
gonna-
step is,
Right.
the next step is going to be.
So I think-
Send a letter from the town?
The next step is going to be
Let them know
undertaken.
they're in violation.
It's, they're gonna, you can go there and take it away.
No, we can tell them they have to remove it and then go from there.
Yeah, I
Make
appreciate
it
it.
more
It's-
formal rather than a request.
Right, I appreciate that. I think that's at least one request, you know, I think hiding it was dirty.
If I may, so there was a conversation that happened last week about telling them to, they were given two choices, either move the porta potty, this is before the code, because it was listed, when we talked to Kate, it was listed as a chemical toilet, we were searching for porta pot, we couldn't find anything in the code. And then after the fact, we told Adam that he either needed to move it or he needed to make it look more presentable, moved it further
But you don't have an
down.
option.
Well, this was
No,
before
but we had given them that option unknowingly.
Right,
And
this
so
was,
they
this
weren't
was
trying to
before.
do what we had asked them. to
Right.
And
do.
the only reason that I knew that it was 5 acres was because Rick and I were having a conversation
Yeah,
about another
he looked
matter.
it up, exactly.
And Rick and I were talking about porta potties, and somebody had asked for one. And he said that you need 5 acres to have a porta potty.
Or
And-
active construction.
Or, well, yeah, but that's a not a permanent one. You can have
Right,
a permanent
yeah.
one with 5 acres.
That's why active construction.
And when Sarah and I were talking about the email thread, I was like, no, you can't have that because it needs 5 acres. So
But it
that
might
advice
be
was
5
given before.
contiguous acres because
The-
it might be
because
because
they-
the railroad, like the.
Not in
the
town,
railroad-
there's no way they have 5
No
acres
way.
in town.
The railroad. has-
They don't have 5 acres.
No,
And
it's-
it also says-
I thought about that too. There ain't no way they got 5 acres.
It also says a parcel of 5 acres. But to be fair to them, we did offer them the option of making it more attractive. They were doing what we suggested.
Because we
But
didn't
we have
know
since
about the
learned.
code.
Right.
We didn't know about the code until it was found out later. You know, it's been difficult without having a planning director who was a zoning director, he was enforcement, and this is all new for all of us. So we're doing the
Exactly.
best that we can to do the research that we can. We found that out late after we had already made contact with him. And so, like I said, we're doing the best that we can. In talking with Catherine Banks, the president of the Delaware and Maryland Railroad, I often think of that this is almost a legal question that hopefully Dave Gaskell can help us with this. Can we ask them to move their location?
Yes, and we will.
Okay.
We can ask them.
Not the porta pot, their actual
Oh.
business.
No.
That's a good question.
If he has a lease with the Delaware Railroad, that's between them. The town
That-
can't dictate where their business is.
So he has a lease to operate on the railroad,
But he has a lease with the railroad.
If he has
This
a
would be
lease-
like any business
If
located
he
in
has a
an
lease
area
for
where they
that
are
particular
appropriately
spot where
zoned.
he's leaving, then we don't have a right to make him move.
But that's not our issue. Our issue is the porta potty.
Well, we're gonna address that, but we cannot ask them to move.
Bottom line,
So then what do we coordinate?
It's not the only issue though.
Right, there are so many logistical issues there. We're about to face a
So
lot.
if the porta pot moves, that still brings up the rest of your concern. That still doesn't, so from Catherine Banks, she says the track leases for use of the tracks and right-of-way between Berlin and Newark. It includes operation of the rail bikes and activities directly related to operating the bike excursions. It does not mention a porta pot specifically.
So I mean, then,
She's,
sorry, so then.
Was she
yeah,
done?
No,
Yeah.
no, you were, okay.
she said that she and Adam are willing to work together to find a
So
solution.
in my interpretation of that, anywhere on the railroad is a viable option.
Correct.
So for me, myself here, to recap, you're going to reach out to some private owners.
Correct.
To see and make connections.
Correct.
Heron Park is not on the table.
No.
Okay. And the porta potty is going to be removed.
That's
That's
The
the
porta
reason.
potty has to go.
That's a
Yeah,
must.
that's in violation.
That's its own.
That's a letter from the town.
Not a discussion.
Just recap.
Yeah.
Everybody calm. So.
Passionate about porta potty.
Yes, ma'am, passionate about it.
Toilets.
So Councilmember Green, you had 3 specific requests.
Well, porta potty, for sure. And then, so there's no porta potty, the employees and customers can't use the bathroom. Because Berlin Beer Company is not happy with them there. That's been a discussion I've had with the Street Kitchen and representatives of the Berlin Beer Company. So the restrooms are not going to be for customers only. It's intolerable to me that this business can operate there without restrooms for its customers. And I can tell you where I know that the employees are going to go.
Absolutely.
They're going to go
Grounds.
over, and it's a real problem for me. And I understand the legal, but we can't, it's an impact in the neighborhood. It has been an impact in the neighborhood for a long time. And it's really tough to read these emails from these families that are very, very upset, and going back and telling them, quoting the railroad company, isn't cut it.
I completely sympathize with them and understand completely where they're coming from. However, they do have a legal relationship with the railroad that we have no part of. It would be like saying that a retail business has to offer restrooms to their customers, and they don't. Retail does not. To the best of my knowledge, the only businesses that have to offer restroom facilities are eateries and bars. These are the areas where the code limits us because we can't impose standards on one business that is outside what the code allows.
But
We can't, but we can seek a solution.
This organization, that's us, we have the ability and the responsibility to alter the code if it's not living up to what we expect. Now, our issue this evening is the porta potty. If we're going to address Steve's other concerns, that needs to come about as a change to our code. Now, maybe you would like to suggest or recommend that we move in that direction, but we have to have legal standing to address those other 2 concerns. And as it stands now, as inconvenient it is and as detrimental it is to those neighbors, our hands are tied. But we have a recourse by changing our code.
Now, there's one thing, like, the code says certain things that the town itself can do. But I think also one of the nice parts about living in a small town like Berlin is that we can have conversations with Catherine. We can have conversations with Trax and Yaks. We can try to connect the dots and maybe find something that is better for everybody. And I don't want to lose sight of that. I think we really have the ability to make something better with the situation and help address some of the concerns.
Let me, give me some time.
Yeah,
This is what I
The porta
do.
potty can be an immediate.
Give me some time. This is what I do.
Thank
Give
you.
me some time.
Well, that's, yeah, right, that's
Give
why.
me a little bit of time here.
Well,
We appreciate it.
I can do some magic here, okay?
Get the wand out, we appreciate it.
I will, this is what I do.
Councilmember Green, anything else?
no, I look forward to that. That's what, I hated to bring it up, but it's been months. So that's why I'm that's why I'm publicly bringing it up.
And they want to be good community partners. They obviously they don't want to cause any, they don't want the neighborhood to be impacted like this. And I'm going to work really hard to find a new location.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
We appreciate it. I see everybody packing up, and I need some of your time.
You do. Do I need to throw something at you, or are you good?
I think Sarah did.
Okay.
I got a sticky, I got a note. We got to talk about the fire company. We need to have a meeting together with them. The date was originally part of the contract. Correct me, David and Mary, if I hit a point where I'm speaking correctly. The date that was in there was not something that worked for them. So With that, we're trying to find an alternative date.
The
One of the
contract
dates-
just states September. It doesn't.
Okay.
it's not-
There wasn't a specific.
Okay, all right, so then we landed on September 30th, I think works for some of them, but it might not work for some of us.
Is that a regular meeting day?
It's a work session.
No, it's not, and it's a separate work session. The other part of it is, I recall us working together to come up with a solution that fell during our regular meetings. I couldn't recall where we ended up. So,
We cut.
Two things.
We cut the quarterly financials from 4 times a year to 2.
correct.
And we have 2 work sessions, which are scheduled separately from a regular meeting, one in September and one in March.
Okay. So,
But Zach had proposed to them that since our regular meeting is on the same day as their meeting, he proposed that when they got here, he would change the agenda to accommodate
But that's not
whatever
what-
time
that's
they
not what
show
the
up.
fin- That's not what the final agreement was.
No. No.
That was just a proposal as we were negotiating, but that's not how it turned out.
No, it says work session, September and March.
I think that, hey, we're down from 4 to 2. Let's take it. Does the 30th work for everybody? If not, can we find an alternate date in October? Let's not try to dig our heels in where it really doesn't matter.
And we would do that in front of the council.
Nope, this would be a separate work session.
Yes.
No.
2 of them.
I mean, not the council meeting.
That's what the language says, unfortunately. It's not what I had recalled.
Well,
but
they
it's
can,
what the language
actually,
says.
council meeting nights are fine.
The language says September 2024 and March 2025 quarterly. So right there is a area that there's a misprint. So that's what it actually says. I don't know if.
I don't know that says that on the execute contract.
I believe it does. It was a word that should have been eliminated.
It's fine, I mean, that, okay. But my point is, we got down from 4 to 2 meetings because the contract says September. If we talk to the fire company, why can't we do the first meeting, a work session in October of a mayor and council meeting night?
We had,
Because their meeting nights conflict.
you know, and we had sent some, there were the email chains that went back and forth. I think everybody saw them. And then the last email that came in was, we're confirmed for the 30th. And Mary was like, what do I do? And I said, we're gonna wait and we're gonna talk about this. Yeah, we're gonna talk about this. So
What time on the?
that's kind of where we're at. It would be at 6 o'clock.
It's not that I don't want to meet with them, but it just, the point was to kind of not have staff.
And make them more action oriented.
Yeah, and be here and we can talk because apparently some folks think we get tired. And it's just,
We have stamina. What are they talking about?
I'm fine, look at me, I got all these cans down here. So it's.
My bold
It's,
vote.
anyway, my personal thing with trying to limit the amount of meetings we had was because the more meetings you have, the more things can get pushed off to the next meeting and nothing got done. So I was trying to get us to 2 so that we could kind of hone down on some things, which I'm sure that they feel a little bit of the same, an hour for EMS, an hour for fire.
Where I thought we would do it from 6 to 7 at the work session, and then go to a council meeting.
They start their meeting at 6.
Yeah, but I would prefer, I agree, I prefer to do
that was
this.
the high.
You're not available on the 9th or the 23rd of September.
Or the 16th.
Or the 16th. We offered the 16th or the 30th, and they came back with the 30th.
I'll try to be here. You know, I think that if we could try for the 2025 meeting to try to shoot for trying to have it more.
Align it with when we're.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Well, so now so what we'll say, let's start this off early with that and say that the next quarterly meeting, we would like it to fall on a mayor and council meeting night. And we will put them on the agenda, and when they come in, we will shift gears to that agenda item. everybody in agreement with that?
Just to be clear, though, that won't be a work session then. That will be a regular meeting.
And then you can't cut the work session.
Does it have to be a work session?
It has to be a work session.
And it's not quarterly, because we only agreed to 2.
Right. You have them coming twice to make their public, regular meeting
Right.
presentation, and then twice for work sessions.
Okay, so what's the thought? We're gonna try for the 30th, 6 to 7:30.
6 to 7:30, so 45
And
minutes
ask,
for each.
and ask David to please send those agenda items over at
7 days in
ASAP.
advance. And materials 7 days in advance.
Earlier the better.
So I believe the contract says 7.
Yes, but ask for them the earlier the better, that way we have time to be able to review them. And then how do we want to handle the next meeting? Which is
Maybe we
in
can
when?
discuss
Well, that's
that
in
now.
March, right? That's supposed to be in March per the contract. So,
Sounds of action.
I would suggest setting a firm meeting. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Monday.
I agree.
I
I'd like us to get it on the
don't, we
calendar.
don't want to be here an extra night either, but their meeting nights conflict with yours, so that's almost unavoidable. It's just the
But it's only-
nature
but it's
of
only
it.
once
Don't jump through hoops here.
I don't know how often they meet, to be honest.
I thought it was the first meeting.
I don't know.
So why can't we just plan the second meeting?
I don't know.
I'll find out.
There are some of our meetings that go to a Tuesday. Is there perhaps in that same month range, a holiday where we shift to a Tuesday?
I don't know. October, I know, it shifts to a Tuesday, but beyond that, I don't
What's in
know.
March, President's Day?
March, maybe Good Friday, might be the only thing in March.
Okay, so we'll lock in the 30th.
It could be at the end.
Good, 30th.
I mean, let's, yeah, for me.
That's fine.
30th. Thank you, Sarah.
6 to 7:30, 45 minutes for each.
Correct. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, up next, any comments from the press? Seeing none? Dean?
Move to adjourn.
We did, but do we have?
Adam.
Do you have public
I'm
comment?
happy to make a comment if I can.
Okay, yeah, we can. That's not a problem. Just
I'm-
come forward, name and street name. You don't have to give the address.
Adam Davis, Berlin Beer Company, I guess representing the neighbor of the Tracks and Yaks. Otherwise, no egregious issues, but yeah, I think the porta potty situation needs some sort of resolution here. As a neighbor, I feel bad for Nick next door. I know I could smell it out back, of our beer garden space. It's one thing from a business to a business, but I mean, that's his family, that's his home. So I do feel bad from there, and I think we do need to come to some sort of resolution on, what the standard operating procedures are here regarding that. There's something else I wanted to bring up. The tent to hide it seems interesting. Forget what you were talking about before. I had something else I wanted to bring up.
I don't know if you saw the earlier stuff, but just so you have an idea, I think the tent was maybe some miscommunication because when looking and doing some diligence on whether a porta potty was allowed, with us having a planning director out, some staff that typically don't search those things searched and the keyword didn't come up.
Yeah.
So then some coaching was provided to, hey, make it look better. And
Sure.
I think that's what led to the tent.
Yeah.
I really don't, my understanding is that it wasn't,
Yeah.
and then the subsequent is that it's not allowed, so
Right.
that message is
Okay.
relayed.
I was trying to listen to some of the convo over Facebook and.
It's okay,
yeah.
just so that you know.
My other thought and piece to bring to you guys to do some due diligence on looking into is I've heard that they've been claiming that there are 30 feet of space from the center of the tracks is what their lease agreement is with the railroad. I can't fathom that's accurate. That puts it 15 feet into my building. Like, that might be antiquated, whatever right-of-way passage from when it was a freight train station to have access to the loading dock that would have been part of my building, but I can't imagine that's in their lease agreement with the freight or the rail line. So I think that should be something that should be looked into. I mean, I've had surveys of my property. I would have to assume that they had to have some sort of property delineation marks given to them per their lease agreement with the rail line. So what is that? And what was on their business license that allowed them to operate here in the corner? That, I guess, just take a look. there's gotta be something there.
The railroad does have a really weird cutout there.
Yeah.
But as far as how far that extends, I honestly.
I know there's been claims that he has access to 30 feet from the center of the rail line on either side of the rail line. So, I mean, literally, that's 15, 17 feet inside of my building. So it can't be.
It's not the full length of the railroad, there's a
Right.
corner, a wedge piece there.
Right, but then they've got the trailer that's along the rail lines, like, is that on their property? Is that part of their lease agreement? Like, where are their property boundaries?
That's between them and the railroad. I mean,
But they had
what
to-
I have seen indicates there's a wedge there.
Right.
But we can't control the lease agreement between them and the railroad.
But shouldn't we have access to where their property boundaries are that they have leased from the rail line?
That's what I just indicated. I
Right,
have seen
so-
a picture showing the wedge.
So can we?
The wedge, not the line 30 feet on either side of the tracks
No,
throughout
it
the whole
doesn't extend
distance.
the full length of the railroad.
Right,
That's
so-
throughout the country.
Right, yeah, it's like, no.
Yeah.
And in many places here in Berlin, that does tighten up quite a
Mhm.
bit. So I think that there might be a general rule of thumb when you talk to people in the railroad.
Mhm.
Jimmy's done that a lot recently as far as management of vegetation, but there are quite a few areas
Yeah.
in town, and yours in particular, I recall when we were looking at the bikeway, it does shrink down quite a bit there.
Right. I would assume that you guys can either contact the rail line to get the actual property boundaries for their lease agreement, or get it from the property, or the business owners themselves, and that should be probably something that should be on file, is all I'm suggesting. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, sorry, one thing. If they're operating in the railroad, we can't do anything about the operation of the railroad. Do they have a Berlin business license?
Yes.
They do.
Yes.
So we can collect that
Yes.
fee.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so do we get their amusement tax?
That's another question.
Yeah, that's a question for the state of Maryland.
Isn't that one of the things that they report to the
Natalie
state?
does not get a report showing every single business owner reported and how much they reported. If they do, they would report to the state of Maryland, and we would receive a full amount from the state of Maryland as the sum off. So for
I
me to
believe
say
you.
if they're reporting their amusement tax or not, I have no way. And if I call the state,
This has been a
that's an
source of
inquiry
contention
I'm
for
not
many years.
supposed to, yeah, it's the honesty of the business owner to operate and report.
Okay, I think we have one more citizen comment. Just name and street name if you don't mind.
Jaden Johnston, 363 Spinner. I guess I'll stay on everyone else's. My comment was just about the AED defibrillator in the park. Is there a general timeline as to when that's going to get replaced? Because it was my understanding that over the summer it broke, and then it's been gone since, I think,
I can answer.
maybe mid-July? Okay.
We received the unit repaired today.
Oh,
So
okay.
we will actually be installing the new unit tomorrow morning.
Awesome. And then a follow-up to that, is there plans, I haven't been in the other parks in a minute, but is there plans to put AED defibrillators in the other parks as well, or?
They're already installed.
Already
Yeah,
installed?
it's part of Henry Park for sure. You can, it's right on the, and the visitor, the foyer at the visitor center. They're active and good to go.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to address the mayor and council regarding public comment? Oh, Sarah, go ahead.
Oh, I would like to tell
Sorry.
everyone that they're going to be receiving in utility bills this month the link to complete the survey about the community center. We're really looking for a broad feedback and input. The survey about the community center is already online on our website under the community center page, and we've also distributed hard copies to the library. It's available at the farmers market. It's available here in town hall and to a number of different houses of worship around the town of Berlin. So it's open until October 4th. I hope that everybody will take the survey and give their input for all the different amenities and things that will be coming when we build the community center.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate
Thank
that. Sorry for overlooking that.
That's all right.
So the utility bills will have an insert with the actual bill, and there'll be a page, just like Sarah's displaying. And so if you want to talk about more what to do with this page,
Yes, on the page, there's a QR code that you can scan with the camera of your phone. There's also the link to the SurveyMonkey that you can type into the web browser. And then there's also a list of all the places where the hard copies are available for pickup as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Natalie, Sarah, thank you both so much for figuring out how we were going to mail it. I appreciate that.
They haven't gone to the mail, but they will, and we're just hoping that people will not disregard them and toss them away.
Thank you. We appreciate it. All right. Vice President Burrell, you're out of adjourned. Second by Councilmember Torres. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.